Hello again, YouTubers. This is another installment of my self-filming tutorials. I'm just like you guys. I don't call myself a beginner anymore, but I'm not an expert. But I'd like to share some of the things that I have discovered in a couple years of self-filming, meaning you're by yourself, carry your gear in, and you film yourself while you try to harvest a deer. So this is tree stand. This is not ground turkey. This is tree stand for deer. So this particular video, it's quite windy. We've had a break in the weather here in North Carolina. So I'm hoping that my audio is going to come through just fine with as bad a wind as I've got. But I want to showcase some of the more budget equipment that will I see a lot of people asking this question, what it takes to start self-filming, so I figured I'd showcase some of the budget items that you can get and use to self-film. So at one time I used Canon, and I have since switched over to Sony. And while Canon is great, they make some great cameras, as far as the Sony is concerned, there's one particular thing on the budget cameras that makes a big difference, and that is the capability to add a remote control to this camera. To the Sony cameras. And so most all of the handy cams you can add a land-sea remote control to, and so that's why I've picked the Sonys. This little camera right here could possibly be used as maybe a point of view or as a backup for me, but I've actually gone past this camera, but I did want to have one, a small one like this, for many different reasons. But this is a Sony SX405. Let me see if I can find the HDR CX405. I bought it for $100 on Craigslist, and it included a $20 tripod, which I probably won't use, so I can sell. So I've got about $80 in this camera. It's in very, very good condition. So now the head that I have on here is not considered a fluid head. However, I can tell it's a friction head, but I can tell it has some pretty good fluid functionality built into it, so it could be used by a beginner if they're budget conscious. But it's a pretty nice little plastic. This one actually came with a hawk tree arm, which I'll talk about later. But this is a pretty nice little head that has some fluid capabilities, and you don't have to worry about locking it back. You can leave it open, and so it does pan and it does tilt, and it's not too bad on pan and tilt. So, and this particular tree arm is one of the less expensive tree arms. I've had it for quite a while. Actually paid $15 for it at Walmart many years ago. And let's see if we can get a look at how it attaches to the tree so you know what I'm talking about. This is how it attaches to the tree right here, and normally I would use a hook to help suspend this part right here before I tightened it down. But lots of people sell this. It's branded by many different people. I have seen Muddy with it, I've seen Gorilla, and there's probably some others out there, and you can probably find it anywhere brand new from $40 all the way up to $80. So I would probably try to get it on the lower end if I could, between 40 and 50. So this head probably is about I don't know, you can probably get this head anywhere from $15 to $25. Anything small like this, even if it's plastic, if it's friction like this, and most importantly, does it have this arm here? So that's what I would recommend, and so you can really stay pretty budget conscious with this setup. So with the Sony, as soon as you turn it on, as soon as you open the LCD, it actually turns on. So I have got a deer decoy out here around 15 yards, and so just imagine if you were in a hunting situation. If you're right-handed, you would be manning the camera with your right hand and holding your bow with your left hand, and you would have to zoom in or zoom out and then switch hands and try to frame your shot, and then hit record, and then follow the deer after you shot. And so you'd have to, so you can see how now in this particular situation, if you zoom in too far on the deer, what's going to happen is it's going to focus on these tree limbs right here in front of deer, and you'll get a soft focus on the deer. So this is what happens when you have autofocus. Now it'll focus on the leaves, and as I move back, it will then change its focus to the tree limbs that are in front of the deer, and that will give you a soft focus on the deer. So what you might consider is rolling back out a little bit on these animals, and be sure and frame it as best you can. But you might would want to roll on back out a little bit, and that way you have your focal length will help contribute to a wider depth of field, so that you have the animal in focus. Now that's different as if you zoom in further for a longer shot, then your autofocus, it's even bigger of an issue, that if you're not careful, you can get some trees in front of what you're trying to get in focus, and it will actually give you a soft focus, or maybe even completely out of focus on the deer, on your animal you're trying to shoot. Okay, I've switched over to a different head. This is a Velbon PH 368 fluid head, and it is probably the least expensive yet best fluid head I have found. I have seen these things for $30, and even new you could probably get them for about $50, but I've seen them there. But I even use this on some occasions, and I have no problem using it because the fluid and pan capabilities is so great. The only issue I have with it is I don't particularly like the adjustability in this particular arm right here, so I don't like it as well as I like the Manfrotto's, but it really is a great head. So, and here's why I recommend upgrading to this type of head. So I've got the same CX405 Sony Handycam here, but I have added a Land-C remote control to it that actually plugs into the multi-port on it with no adapter cables. And what it does is it provides me with all I need here at my fingertips. I can actually turn it on. So deer walks in, you have it sitting up with it powered off, and of course I would turn the sounds off on this particular camera, but you can hit the power button on the remote control and use it to turn it off and on, so that you don't waste your batteries. Of course, the longer it stays on, it will eventually time out and power itself down. So with this particular remote control, I can zoom in, and it's variable speed. I can zoom out really fast, zoom in slow or fast, depending on how hard I press the button. But I can also hit the record button also at the same time, and then when I'm done, I can just stop the recording. So that's what's so great about this particular remote control, is it allows you one-hand operation. You don't have to zoom in and out with the button on the camera. You don't have to hit the start-stop button. You don't have to open the display to turn it off and on. It's all located right here in this remote control. So this remote control, you can find it on Amazon. I believe I paid less than $50 for it on Amazon, but if you're going to sell film, it's almost a must-have. Okay, so I've made another change. This time I have changed cameras over. This is a Sony HDR PJ540, and you can probably find these used for between $200 and $400. And the good thing about this particular camera is you can see I have added a shotgun mic to it, and this is actually a Sony mic that attaches to the Sony proprietary hot shoe. So this shoe provides power to this microphone. It also receives the signal through it, and it will turn off and on, and they are advertised that it will also zoom in with the same it will zoom in with the camera zoom. So it also has a removable battery where the other one did not. So if you wanted to take it up a notch, then this is a good camera. It also works with the remote control as well. So this is probably one of the better setups as far as budget goes. The microphone, probably, I think I held out until I got it for less than $30. And so the reason why this is so much better than, say, a Rode mic, if you were going to use a Rode mic, you'd have to have an adapter that adapts this shoe to a standard shoe, and it sticks up about this high, and then the Rode mic would be up on top of it, and then you would have to run a cable down to the microphone input, which I've never, oh, here it is right here. You'd have to run it into here. So for what I use it for, this particular mic is just fine. So as far as budget setups, this is probably about the best you're going to get with this arm, this head, this camera, remote control, microphone, external battery, and so not a bad setup for a beginner.